from someplace over at the Seattle Hempfest. This is a Space Dog Radio Show. I'm the Space Dog. Thanks for tuning in. Space Dog Radio, your remote location radio station, coming to you 24/7 around the planet and throughout the universe from SpaceDogRadio.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Twitter at Space Dog Radio. Today on the line, Mark Taylor-Canfield, coming to us live from the Seattle Hempfest. Mark Taylor-Canfield, thanks for being on Space Dog Radio.
Hey, it's good to be with you live from Seattle Hempfest 2014 amongst 80,000 people.
What's going on down there, buddy?
Oh, it's busy. There's, as you can hear, there's people speaking in the background. They have panel discussions going on about legalization of marijuana. There's a bunch of bands. Over 100 speakers. It's crazy. It's just a huge hot party, and people are really enjoying themselves. For the first time in Washington State, it is actually legal to smoke marijuana. So this is a huge celebration for marijuana activists from Seattle who have been trying so hard to make this happen. And so it's a big celebration this year, big celebration. Probably more people than ever before. But it is purported to be the largest pro-hemp celebratory festival in the world. So they're expecting 80,000 people there on each of the 3 days, August 15th through the 17th. And we will be here. I'll be here reporting on it and speaking as one of the keynote speakers about freedom of the press and legalization efforts around the country. So I have a few facts for you, if you don't mind. I hope people don't mind facts on your program.
By all means, go ahead.
There is a huge movement across the country to legalize marijuana, and currently there are 23 U.S. states that have adopted medicinal marijuana programs, and 16 states and the District of Columbia actually have decriminalized the possession and use of cannabis. Also, according to the Marijuana Policy Project, which is a good source for this kind of information, also NORML, NORML.org is a good place for this kind of information. But according to the Marijuana Policy Project, 18 states and the District of Columbia have currently proposed either statewide initiatives or legislative bills that would regulate alcohol like marijuana, which would make it legal, but have some restrictions on it, like there are in Washington State, which is something that I could go into a little bit. Washington State did approve Initiative 502 in 2012, and marijuana is legal in the United States, in the state of Washington. Only in Colorado and Washington State at this point in the United States, but it is legal to possess up to an ounce, and there are legal retail marijuana stores that sell it, although the supply is really low in Seattle right now, so there's been a big complaint that the Washington Liquor Control Board, which has the duty of regulating the growing, sale, and distribution of marijuana in Washington State, is a little bit draconian and backwards and puritanical in their heavy regulation of the product. So a lot of retailers have not been able to open yet. There's only been a couple dozen out of 334 that are supposed to open in Seattle, in Washington State. Currently there's only 2 in Seattle, and they did Cannabis City, which was the first one, ran out of marijuana within the first week. And it's been impossible actually to buy legal marijuana in Seattle for weeks at a time. There's been huge dry spells because the distributors and processors and growers and retailers can't keep up with the huge demand. Although the Washington Liquor Control Board has announced that there has been $4.3 million worth of legal marijuana sold in Washington State since July 8th, since the first stores opened.
Wow.
Which is more than Colorado.
Wow.
And some estimates are that in the first 5 years, at least $2 billion worth of legal marijuana could be sold in Washington State. So it's a huge industry. But just to let folks know, the initiative was written and the Liquor Control Board has regulated marijuana to the point where there is a limit to how much can be grown. So you probably won't see AGI or some of the big agricultural corporations or Monsanto growing marijuana at this point. But as it moves across the country and becomes legal in more and more states, we could find that would be an issue that we'll have to watch out for. Right now, it's the limitations on the amount of growing have made it basically impossible for major corporations to step in and take over. So it's mostly a local Washington State industry at this point.
Mark, tell us.
That's my report from Hempfest live.
Mark, tell us as you're standing there on the Seattle waterfront and you're looking around. And I was there yesterday. I got to tell you, there's a lot of fresh air there. Everybody was using. There were no police in sight. There were plenty of happy people, and there were plenty of people just like looking around, like I was. Like I don't smoke it, but I enjoyed the festival. I enjoyed the music. What are you seeing right now as you're standing there on the Seattle waterfront at Hempfest 2014?
It's really large. There's a lot of people here. Estimates were 80,000 each of the 3 days, and there are plenty of people still coming in right now. There's a lot of crowds moving through the Seattle Art Museum Sculpture Garden area where one of the main entrances are. Yours truly, luckily, has a trespass, so I was able to get in quickly. But a lot of people are walking into the area right now. I would say thousands right now are still entering the area, which is Myrtle Edwards Park down in the waterfront in downtown Seattle. Thousands of people. Like, there's a steady stream of people walking into the entrance right now. So, huge crowd. And this is the last day, actually, so it's surprising to see so many people showing up at the last minute because there's only a few hours left to the protest. Well, they call it a protestival, but I would say this year it's less of a protest and more of a celebration because of the legalization of marijuana. So,
right.
It's very celebratory. There's a lot of people, a lot of folks from all over the world here. I see a anime girl walking by from Japan, obviously, in a costume. So there's all sorts of interest around the world about the legalization of marijuana in Washington State. It's a big story for me as a journalist. I kind of stayed away from reporting on marijuana as a journalist just because of a professional ethic. I didn't want people to think of me as the stoned journalist in Seattle. But now that it's become legal, I'm getting a lot of commissions to report on this subject from all over the world and from international and national media. So it's a big, big issue. And there are a lot of people here in Seattle today. One of the things that I haven't mentioned is something called marijuana tourism, which is a really big issue right now. There are billions of dollars probably to be made by investors in Seattle right now who provide a place for people to smoke marijuana because technically, if you go to my Daily Coast article today about this, technically it is still illegal to smoke marijuana in public in Washington or in Seattle and in pretty much everywhere in Washington State. It's legal to possess it, and it's legal to buy it at a state-regulated store. It's legal to grow it if you have a license, but it's not actually legal to smoke it in public. Now, it's true that in Seattle that law is very seldom enforced by the local law enforcement agencies, but officially that's the story. So folks who are coming in from Oklahoma or Florida or other parts of the country where there isn't decriminalization or legalization of marijuana, they would like to have a place to smoke it where they feel safe. Now at Hempfest, they are providing pot gardens where people can smoke it as adults because you have to be 21 in order to possess and buy marijuana legally in Washington State. So they have the Hempfest organizers, including my good friend Vivian McPeak, who's been doing it since the beginning. They have set up pot gardens where people can smoke amongst other adults away from children and enjoy themselves the same way that they do with legal alcohol. And so that's the story in Washington State. But I did interview some guys from the original cannabis Cannabis is what they call it, and they are offering a service for tourists who come to Seattle. They're offering a party bus where you can go around the city and you can smoke marijuana legally in their bus while you party. And so they and also some other groups of investors have talked about marijuana tourism as a big business in Seattle,
Right.
With hotels maybe above retail stores that sell it, and all sorts of very interesting business plans revolving around the legal sale and use of marijuana.
Hey, Mark, have a good time at Hempfest. Say hello to the herbivores for us. We're going to be up here talking about coal trains and oil trains, but we'll be back next year talking about Hempfest, one of the most dynamic and fantastic events in the Pacific Northwest. Thank you so much.
Thank you, too, and a shout-out to all the Hempfest organizers, including Vivian McKee, who, by the way, if you go to my Daily Coast article, you'll read the story about how CNBC had him all set up for an interview on the first day of the festival, then canceled at the last minute. So, problem with corporate media coverage of the legalization of marijuana. Oh, I'm about to be run over by...
Yeah, look out for that truck.
...carts that the Hempfest crew uses to get around, because it's a huge park. Myrtle Edwards Park goes on for miles if you do the loop. So a lot of people use golf carts to get around. That's how I got to my speaking engagement last night, is on a golf cart. It was pretty cool. Taylor-Canfield reporting from Hempfest in Seattle 2014, where people are celebrating personal liberty and individual rights to enjoy the effects of THC in a public setting.
From someplace over at Seattle Hempfest, this has been the Space Dog Radio Show, along with Mark Taylor-Canfield. This has been coverage of the Seattle Hempfest, brought to you by Space Dog Radio. I'm the Space Dog. Thank you for listening. Be safe, be happy, and I'll catch you next orbit.